Hello and welcome to Life in the Mind. We're back. I'm Murray Spear and we're back with Tom Jordan.
That's
Hello,
me.
Tom.
Hello. How are you?
I'm all right.
Good.
Thanks for having me. No, wait.
Hang on a minute. You're welcome. Thanks for coming.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah, much
What are we
appreciated.
gonna talk about?
Long time no see.
We are today going to discuss the topic, the idea, the concept of neurodivergence and creativity. Yeah, the most interesting tease.
So many T's. For some reason I think in my head that neurodivergent ends with the same, but it doesn't. Do you know neurodiversity?
Neurodiversity.
Is that what it is?
Yeah, probably. Yeah.
I don't know.
A different type of tea. Yeah.
Spilling
you
the
have to steep
tea.
that one for longer.
You do?
Yeah.
Not too long though. You don't want the
go a bit sour.
what is like the
The umami taste
oxidants or something to like over. Yeah.
Random words.
Don't want overbreed tea. No.
Overbreed.
Over.
Yeasty tea. No. Anyway, cool.
We'll
We
back
are
up
going to
on
talk
that one.
about creativity.
Creativity.
And yeah, so for you, do you reckon that your neurodivergence affects how you are creative?
How am I creative? Do I feel like my neurodivergence affects my creativity?
Yes, that's a better way of asking the question. Thanks, host.
Yes, I do.
That's good. Yes, good. Yeah.
Thanks for having me. This has been great.
Cool. We have answered the question.
I do. Yeah, massively. Massively.
Yeah.
It's weirdly a thing that sometimes I wrestle with a bit as well because it feels almost immediately we're like half a minute in and I'm going to mention imposter syndrome. The most ridiculous version of it is despite the fact that I am not actually separate to my neurodivergence. I think sometimes when I think about that sort of symptoms list that first led me to go, hang on a minute, that feels very familiar. Somehow it almost feels, I don't know, like, well, no, we'll dive straight in there. It feels almost like there's like, maybe ADHD is like this weird, like,
gribbly thing on the
symbiotic parasite type thing that like somehow it isn't part of me and actually I'm not, and then what that, not literally obviously, but what that does is leaves me sometimes feeling like my creativity isn't my own, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
It's like it's sort of like it's like being done for me by, the extraplanar entity that possesses my brain. It's
with
like
tentacles
actually
in many boxes. It's not. So you don't have fingers in many pies. It has tentacles in many pies. It's this extraplanar thing, the symbiotic ADHD scribble. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a weird. Like I am. Oh, this feels horribly arrogant to say I'm very creative. Like I'm very creative, have always been very creative. If I was to feel like any part of what I have is related to any superpower, it is the creativity. It's one of the most important things to me out of who I am, to the extent where huge chunks of my professional job, that was poorly phrased,
Life.
are branded as a creative. Like I've literally been listed and paid as a creative for jobs that I've done, which is an interesting conceptual kind of title, but that's sort of how important the creative side is. So then it is strange sometimes when it almost feels like I'm not really creative because it's my ADHD, but that isn't true really. It's just it's the brain's way of going, oh hey, like you're good at something, let me see if I can find a way of like making you feel like you're not. Like let me see if I can just take that off for you. You look weighed down by the confidence that comes with really good at something.
Any sort of pride in anything, because that would be a sin.
You don't worry, pal. I'll carry that for you. You pass that over here. But obviously that's not really the truth. I mean, we are, it's not really a set. We're just in totally. Not even entwined with it. It's just a part of who you are. It's just you are convenient to place into a box for people that it's inconvenient for. I suppose that's me being jaded again. But absolutely. Like my creativity, I don't think in a standard way. The way my brain, that sort of, I think a lot of people with ADHD in particular experience that, jumping somewhere else, and it feels like you've jumped somewhere else in a conversation, and like you're changing the subject, but actually you've taken a longer route round through various different connections at a high speed, and actually it's totally connected. It's just that the logic of it has gone a slightly different route. I mean, and that feeds into, I suppose I'm able to make lots of different kind of connections, look at things from different angles, take things in different ways.
And
some of it
different ideas and stuff. Things, different angle. Go, actually, what if we do it in this way?
Some of it is also, and I've learned this the hard way, some of it is also wrapped up in my impulsivity.
Yeah.
The immediate impulsive instinct to go, we should do this thing. Oh, I know this will be mad, but we should do this thing. Yeah. Which I have to say, and I sort of don't want to comment too deeply on this because I don't want to influence people. One of the main reasons I wanted to be diagnosed is I wanted to try medication.
Yeah.
And the medication I have, which I'm actually currently looking at coming off, affects my impulsivity. And I definitely found that as it was increased, I struggled more and more with creativity, and I was finding myself in place that I'd always feared. It's like imposter syndrome nightmare is turning up, because a lot of the kind of work that I do is very centered around just having to come up with something on the spot. Like, here are the details. We're in the room. This is the time we've got. This is what's available. This is what. This is the time the space is booked for, and this is the time you and these people are being paid for. Yeah. Well, you have to kind of...
This is the script you've been given from a typography point of view.
You just have to...
We need something to fill in these paces. We've got 10 minutes. Go.
Yeah, you have to be able to... But I did feel a bit like, once I started, particularly the higher dose of medication, I was finding points where I was going in and being like... I actually can't think of anything.
Yeah.
And having to find something, and maybe in the moment what I was doing was solving it by drawing more on, I suppose, almost plagiarising my own work. Like I was having to rely more on going, I did this thing, which is absolutely not how I work. It'll be influenced by experience and context and things I've done in the past, but
that's realistic what plagiarising your own work is.
Yeah, but it has to be, but in reality, like when I would do something, it doesn't have to be original for the sake of it, but it has to reflect really honestly what we're doing right now. So the idea of crowbarring something, that's what it felt like to me. But obviously, like what I don't want to do is influence other people's experience with medication, because it's really important to a lot of people.
Exactly, it's important that we all have our own experiences with this, but it's really important.
Yeah.
We only know what your individual experience is by you sharing that and your relation to that and your nuances on it.
I've got a good friend. We go a long way back, and when I was diagnosed, we were chatting because he'd had the experience from a younger age, and I remember thinking he'd made the decision to come off medication at some point, and I remember thinking, like, totally respecting it, but not being able to relate to the idea that somebody might want to come off it. And I think what I discovered is that the medication I ended up on didn't really solve any of the things that I wanted it to solve, but I did lose a lot of these different aspects. And so I sort of, that kind of I would never have imagined it, this sort of impulsivity that for me was never like super destructive. It was never really like dangerous or anything. It's quite extreme. But in thankfully not particularly hazardous way, I suppose, in like a slightly eccentric kind of quirky kind of way. Yeah. And I had a lot of outlet for it because it was, a creative outlet. But that ability to just suddenly go, here's a mad idea, why don't we have a go with it? And that was actually turned out really significant.
Do you think that in a way is actually, that was a bit of a chicken and egg situation of the impulsivity and expansive thinking led you to fall into more of those lines of work anyway.
Yeah, absolutely.
So you were seeing that, this can be useful in this way. This is creativity, and these are the worlds where it's accepted and actually it's valued.
Yeah.
It's really brilliant to be able to do that in these places. Do you reckon that then?
Yeah, absolutely. And combined with, I suppose, what people would refer to as hyper-focus as well. I think, and I've had this fed back to me as well. People understand that I'm not great with admin and stuff, but they know that once they get me in the room to whatever it is that we're going to work on, that is what we're going to be working on. Like nothing else. Not in a really like, sounds really horribly emotional, but like nothing else in that time frame. Nothing else doesn't exist, but nothing else is pushing its way in.
You focused on that world.
Yeah. And then what you get is you get like just a wide, like that, as you say, expansive thinking. That's a great term. That, I suppose, inventiveness, but I know that it's all really tangled up in my neurodivergence. But that's the part I wouldn't change. That's the part I wouldn't, for all the many sort of horrid things that come with it.
Yeah.
But I couldn't have worked in something else.
No,
I couldn't.
and it's something we've talked about on the podcast before about that, how it defines and impacts what we can do as a job and stuff like that. But
would have been really dangerous for my mental health to try and work in something else.
I think that's very common to find. It's that kind of, that's the journey of finding, not to invalidate your version of it, but to find that path of it's how mental health makes sense in certain ways, mental health problems, of trying to do something, we can't do it.
Yeah.
It is, we are setting ourselves a value system based on that thing.
Yeah.
If we can't do it, or we don't meet expectation, or can't tick X, Y, Z, then that's detracting from our self-worth and our idea of self and value within the world. So that makes complete sense. There's the one thing that I know about you, which we have in common, is that.
What is it? Who told you? What's going on?
What? Who did you listen? How?
Who's that outside the door? What's happening? Oh no!
Is that we both are fully creative and have monster tentacles and the weird
fully creative
thing.
Full
Like
creativity mode engage.
Yeah, loads of different pies, loads of different boxes.
I got
but
you.
They all link together. For me, it feels like all of those creative things all tie together.
Yeah.
And actually they influence each other and raise each other up. And so it can seem to other people. This is one thing that for me has been really important in my journey through kind of finding out about the autism and then the ADHD within me. Going, so actually when it looks like I'm random, I'm just, not in a drawing. I'm not drawing anymore. That's just been stopped and thrown over there kind of thing.
Yeah.
Or I'm not acting at the moment, or I'm not doing music at the moment, or I'm not like any of those moving parts. And it's like, I am, but I'm just doing a different facet of those things in acting or music, and it's like, because they're all so interlinked and they all feed onto each other. And so whilst I'm doing one, it's actually it can often give me ideas for other stuff or raise something else up and actually form a greater rounded picture. Do you find it similar?
Yeah, 100%. It's absolutely integral. Yeah. The reflection, having reflected on that, has actually informed the methodology I use in certain professional aspects in my work. There are certain things where I've gone, the same thing actually applies there, which is the sense that there's almost like a core. There's like a kind of core engine to it all. So it's absolutely, I mean, a sort of clearer example is when I was younger, I played lots of different musical instruments. And I think the impression that had sort of placed on me was actually I should follow one in particular and just kind of keep going with that. And that was the way I needed to work to get better at it. Now, I understand to some extent that there is a process whereby, repetition and focus on something can help develop that ability. That was never going to work for me. No. I found that even repetitive exercises, kind of, when I played the guitar, for example, repetitive exercise, I found really physically uncomfortable.
Because you were forcing yourself into
it was a really goodness me, it makes me tense up even think about it. But actually the way I sort of looked on those different instruments is that they might have there might be some particular technical elements to it that you needed to understand for that kind of instrument.
Yeah.
But actually they all sort of drew on the kind of same pot, if that makes sense. Yeah. So actually they weren't all different. They were all kind of coming from the same kind of core element. And that's how things work for me in all the creative stuff I do. They all inform each other. They all pull from the same kind of, if you spend some time drawing, there's some really clear practical ways in that way that might inform like the kind of imagery of putting stuff on film or putting stuff on set or painting, because you're dealing with composition and you're dealing with kind of, but it actually just that broadening and that opening and that creativity and that informs everything. Like no element of it is really isolated. I think people tend to go, that's that thing over there, that's that thing over there, that's that thing over there. But I think if your brain works in the way that it does for a lot of neurodivergent people, they're not they're not really all disconnected. It's almost like looking at a city and going, well, that's that building over there and that building over there and that building over there, but not kind of recognising all the roads that actually connect all of it.
And all together they are a city.
They're all part of a city. They're all different facets of that, and they all support each other, and they draw on different resources and stuff. And what I'm conscious of is that I sort of almost can't articulate it, if that makes sense. Like I sort of feel it.
It's a feeling. It's an instinctive thing, because, I mean, one of the things that I kind of have to keep reminding myself about being neurodivergent is like, people go, oh, but what, like, especially if I'm trying to think, what would being neurotypical be like? And I'm like, I can't really have a concept of that because I never know otherwise, because my brain was wired in this way to start with. And so everything that I do has been formed in that paradigm. Yeah. And everything has been informed by it, and my personality has grown out of it. And so that there's so many things where I just do them. They are how I think. They are how I am. They are that feeling of stuff. Yeah, is just that is how I. And there's, I think also, we can too often fall into a space of, if we can't put words to it, it has less value. Yeah. Whereas actually, I would say the opposite in many ways. That if you, especially if you've explored a concept and have tried to put words to it, and you've really, you've explored the nuances and different angles on it, and then you actually reach the kind of impasse of just like, it's something other than that. Yeah. I think that's really powerful and a really like good thing to have noticed. Is like these extra things where, words run out at some point. It's why we have all these different other different forms of communication, like body language, or just whatever empathy is, or how you can tell someone's looking at you. Kind of, like all of these extra little things, where pheromones and stuff like that, where those aren't words. Words aren't being used. I mean, sign language also, there's so many things where words are different.
I think, and this is really interesting talking to you about this, because it's sort of processing in my brain as we discuss it. I think part of where that imposter syndrome around creativity and stuff comes from for me is because so much of it is instinct driven. So much of it is, so much for me is not driven. Yes, it's influenced by the learning I've done over a long period of time, by the experience I've gained over the process of not even just my career as an adult, but my time,
life experience.
But I think I felt almost like I was cheating. Yeah, it's not a proper version of it because it's just coming instinctively. But but it also made it. I was also aware that it made it practically more efficient, because I wasn't having to go through this. Well, I didn't feel like I was having to go through this long kind of tick box kind of, we've hit that thing and that thing and that thing and that thing. I was doing everything almost by feel. Yeah. And actually then, but then I think as I've got older, that combined with the experience and the learning has made something really powerful creatively. But when I was younger, I felt almost like I was cheating, like it was, it's not a real, let's not making it up, which, shock horror is literally what you're doing with creative work. Like I'm
drawing stuff from your head,
actually making it up.
And that's not necessarily a bad thing.
That is the point.
As long as you can create things by making them up.
Yeah,
that is a whole valid thing.
And you can develop your practice, and you can learn, and you can expand it, and that's really important because you have more to draw on. You have more vocabulary. You have more information. You have more kind of mirrors to reflect it. Yeah, and because we never stop growing, or changing through our lives. We're constantly gaining more strings to that bow. Yeah. More facets to that crystal. Yeah. And so we're just enriching that process. Well, each like impulsive new hobby or interest or everything, they all feed back into everything else. Central. Like I think one of the things, I'm not a sporty person, and I think one of the things that surprised people for a period of time is somehow one of my sort of novel kind of interest suddenly became playing football. And I played football, not for very long, but I played it for a short period of time. The opportunity was there, and I am astonished still as somebody who'd grown up really, really really kind of almost like, too aggressively, like had a vendetta against football. Yeah. Like I'm really shocked by how many things I still found it, like how many more similarities I found in terms of creativity and development and And I'm using that as an example because it was sort of the most unlikely and most extreme version of it. Like the chances of me kind of that being one of my sort of neurodivergent, suddenly like I really want to go and play football and have a go at football. And but even then, there's still so many. In fact, by stepping right outside of it, I'm not saying you have to go and play football, but what I mean is by stepping so far outside of what was you, it's almost more information to drag back in, you know. And as somebody who works, you know, in lots of different fields, but one of my biggest kind of professional fields is obviously working as a fight choreographer. I don't mean like I learned loads because there was loads of fighting info, but like I just learned so much about
how physicality works,
about physicality and timing and its sort of urgency and explosivity and you know the way people communicate and work. You know, I was really like, wow, this is overwhelmingly like more connective than I expected it to be.
It's one of the important, like something I can definitely relate to in that. Stepping, what's that comfort zone thing, and stepping outside your comfort zone, but not pushing it to the extent where you're actually causing a problem. So actually your comfort zone gets smaller.
I've always been someone who's sort of,
but you can get a lot of feedback from on yourself by doing it, and if you're doing it in really quite unexpected ways as well, then you get, and it's that thing of, it's all experiences as well. So sometimes when you have things that could be a negative experience if you were going positive negative binary. Like this is there was a bad part of this, or I did this and I didn't like it. There's knowledge in there. You
absolutely. You've gained something from.
And it's the same with creativity in that it grows that tree of creativity within you, or opens up more channels to tap into the flow.
I've always been someone who's kind of really sort of marched towards stuff that I'm not very good at. Because it feels like I'm filling out another area. It feels, and even, you know, if I don't necessarily, like at one point I felt like I needed to develop my coordination more. So I learned to juggle, which was, you know, and now sometimes I have that conversation with people and I think they now box me into a space of coordinated people and they kind of go, oh, but you can juggle, you can do stuff like that.
I didn't know that you were dyspraxic as well.
Yeah.
Until the last episode.
But
you mentioned it because I had done that.
Yeah.
Because I know you as coordinated person. And so
I was like even one of my biggest issues playing football was like essentially ducking if the ball was coming in too high, because like I was definitely a kid getting like, you know, the ball hitting me in the face in the playground while I was just walking across, like looking for my
notice it being there,
you know,
or trying to head it and it hits you in
looking
the face
for a quiet space to, like, you know, play with magic cards or mini boglins or whatever the age was that I was, because of, you know, obsessively collecting things, you know,
not quite being aware of things move. It's like, I've just walked across a football pitch.
I was somebody who, again, like with those, I think we talked about it in the previous episode about being put into particular boxes and it doing for us. I was someone who couldn't catch, you know, couldn't catch. And there are certain elements of it that I do still struggle with. I mean, the thing that I work in, you know, the physical world that I work in is all choreographed. It's all pre-choreographed. And that is, I think, has actually been something that has really helped me to develop those skills. Like, I'm still not particularly great.
Work at the mechanics behind it and actually going through the steps of how to do it.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Like, you know, I'm more coordinated now, but through practice and development. But I still, you know, had to go at playing tennis with my father-in-law, and first hit just yeeted the ball out of the like unrecoverable, like out into the woods. And it was like, yeah, okay, we're not going to play this again.
This is shriek in the distance, just like
gone forever. You know, it's still there, but I think, you know, sometimes we sort of shy away from going for stuff that we're not very good at. But I find that even if you don't necessarily, and this sort of is a difficult instinct when you're neurodivergent as well, if you don't immediately succeed with it, just the experience of developing, and I mean, and in terms of creativity, like that has expanded loads of not everything that I've learned in terms of that creative world or outside of that world has necessarily been something like the juggling. Like, I'm not a particularly proficient juggler. I was learning to juggle at the same time as a friend of mine who is really well coordinated and learnt to juggle in about, I don't know, a tenth of the time that I did. It took a really serious amount of intensive work. And at my peak, I was still not very good. But I did it, and it really helped develop my coordination
it
more.
Does something for you, even without it being to expert
and you know, even if you don't
succeed
succeed
beyond actually just doing something for you.
The success thing is,
What is
even,
success?
like what you even if you don't succeed, even if I'd not got to the point where I could lightly juggle,
Yeah.
would that have really mattered? Ultimately, I learned a lot
would
through the
have found
process of doing
something
it.
out, yeah.
I did not become a good footballer. I did not become a good footballer.
Against Tom, man. The Arsenal-Chelsea game.
Yeah, I did not even become
bad
a
enough.
competent footballer. But I still learned loads of stuff about it, and it was fun. Once I
you
took the
learned-
pressure off, I learned some stuff, and
you took other things from it as well.
yeah,
That's the thing, isn't it? We can all, by doing these things, we find things that we connect to in them.
and I actually learned some stuff about what is essentially an independent culture that I'd found really, to be honest, kind of frightening
Yeah,
before.
that makes sense.
And actually, I learned a lot of, and I've made a few friends with some people that I probably would have been a bit
Yeah,
not outwardly wary of, but would have been a bit like, or instinctively
not
like, they're not going to
my
like me,
people
they're
kind
not
of
going to
thing.
want me around here.
Yeah.
And actually, it was kind of humbling, and then has weirdly been another thing that has fed back into my creative work, because when you have that, when you have that mindset that it does all connect,
Yeah.
sort of everything connects into it. Like everything
It
becomes
does,
useful.
yeah.
Everything
Oh, yeah.
is part of it.
And we in many ways are the central point, connecting each of these different things. They will come back and we can reflect on them, and if we trust ourselves to be establishing some sort of, well, there is some sort of growth within us from each of those connections and reflections on different things, then that they can be incorporated by that, us trusting them. They can be incorporated into that growth, into our tree,
Yeah.
kind of thing, and be like, yeah, cool. This is something. There is something in there. It wasn't wasted time. It wasn't lost time. It wasn't blah 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 blah. It's made.
Oh, do you know, I can so easily dive into some kind of wide, sprawling metaphor, but it's like tree one's great, because I think sometimes you sort of feel like, if you think about a leaf, or a branch, that sort of starts to grow and it starts to develop, and it's a version of it, and then the leaf thing, like, it can get knocked off, or it can fall at that, when it's autumn, or it can, it's been very windy recently, it can be ripped away from the tree, but then it's a problem if you make the assumption that it is just that isolated thing, and then once it's ripped away,
it's nothing.
That is the problem. Like, it's gone, but actually,
the tree is gone as
it
well.
all really connects into that same
Yeah.
core, into that same trunk, into the same root. So it's not, none of it is independently gone or separate or.
And I think it's one of those things that, for me, like the discovery of the neurodivergence within me was it really helped that process of kind of accepting those things. And also the other key thing of this kind of comfort zone and doing things you're not necessarily is making sure you're not doing it too far, kind of thing.
Yeah, of course,
and when you're, or giving into other people's pressure or those kind of things, and learning boundaries and stuff. And for me, it made such a, it still does, and it's something that even like over the last month or so, I've still been noting times when there's stuff that I wouldn't have done in the past that I do now, and a lot of that is because I've now realised my neurodivergence.
Yeah.
And gone, okay, cool. So what is it within this that blah blah blah, and what gets in the way and stuff? Okay, so I'll do this bit, but also I know that I need to take this with me to be comfortable. I'm going to push this in this direction, but only to this extent before I add another strut of something that I need within there, so that I can push it a wee bit further.
Means you can manage things that need to be managed. You can harness things that can be harnessed. You can, responsibility is really important, but you can take a bit of pressure off and forgive yourself a few things that maybe perhaps in the past you might have given, invested a lot of energy on sort of essentially damaging yourself about it. Yes. And then what it also does is and this is probably one of the most important things about all of it, creativity, about neurodivergence, is it helps us to find perspective and balance. Yeah. And that's the most important thing. Sometimes we sort of really strive for these really specific kind of societal driven tick boxes, but actually perspective and balance is the crucial thing, because if we have perspective that allows us to look at things creatively, allows us to look at things from lots of different angles, look at things in terms of a bigger picture, which gives us more to draw on. And then in terms of our personal experience, if we've got perspective, it allows us to look at things
and see
and
how
frame
they factor
things
into
within
our lives, and
which
also how we then relate to those things and the world at large, and see our place within it.
and that helps. That allows us to find that balance. It's
one word that really stuck with me there from that last bit you were saying was harness.
Yeah.
I think that's one of probably the thing we'll kind of end with is that, it feels like once you kind of see where you're going and what getting that perspective and balance and stuff, then you're able to turn that kind of stuff that could be chaotic and damaging to oneself or could be marked as something dangerous into something that can be harnessed.
Yeah.
And that can be incorporated into oneself for growth. And it's that, and it changes the damaging and the sacrifice part of the soul pact illusion we had in the last episode into some more of the positive, the edges of superpower type thing are coming from the harnessing of recognizing what is within oneself, and harnessing the truth of one's being within the world we live in can give you real strength, and also that strength, sense of place, without you losing sight of the nuance.
This will sound almost borderline pretentious, but if you take like a resource like fire, for example, if it's out of control and you just kind of thrust your hands into it and it's getting all over the shop, like the amount of damage it can cause is absolutely
elemental,
just unimaginable. But if you harness it, as you say, and you focus it in the right direction and you apply it to what it can be used for, I mean, like, it's just one of the most important resources that humankind has ever seen. It doesn't then stop it being something that could get out of control and could still potentially be dangerous. But once you focus it and you use it in the right way, use it in a balanced way, and you harness it and you manage it, and it can be really powerful and really productive. And
fire it warms us, but it lights the way whilst it's still sitting there, and it can burn and destroy. But ultimately, it's then also harnessed to be able to push that steam train of thought down the road of creativity.
I mean, I'm neurodivergent. It's a dangerous thing to start talking about steam trains.
Don't start on that one.
You've got unless you've got another couple of hours.
Steam trains, locomotives, things that move.
Love a steam train.
Yeah, but yes, brilliant. I think that's probably a good place to leave it.
Fab.
Awesome. Thank you again for coming. That's been really good discussion, really interesting. If any listeners or watchers,
hi,
have any comments on this, or would like to share their own perspectives on how creativity in their lives connects to their neurodivergence, or they're just in general, because actually, getting different sides of the story, please do let us know in various different ways. But cool. Bye.
Thanks for having me.
Okay, folks, that's it for this episode. Follow us on Instagram at life.inthemind. Our other socials are linked in the bio. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and comment. Bye.